Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It seems like just yesterday we were talking about Gabriel, but he's had a lot going on lately, so we've got plenty to discuss today.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind for him, for sure.
The last time we checked in, his divorce was crawling along and causing him some stress, but
He seemed to be in pretty good spirits, though, overall, right?
yeah, I think he was really starting to find his footing,
Yeah.
getting into a new routine,
Yeah.
and even thinking about dipping his toes back into the dating pool.
Right, and that's where things get interesting.
That's where things get really interesting.
He mentioned he was talking to a couple of women,
Yeah, a couple of women.
and now he's got a first date coming up with one of them.
With one of them that he's been FaceTiming with, and he
Wow.
even described her as gorgeous. So
Ooh, exciting.
it is exciting.
I'm curious to hear more about that.
I am too. We'll definitely get to that.
Yeah.
But first, I think we need to rewind a bit to Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Remember how there was some uncertainty about how that was going to go, especially with all the family dynamics involved?
Yeah, he wasn't even invited to his ex's family Thanksgiving,
Right.
but her mom invited him to theirs.
Her mom invited him to theirs.
Yeah.
I mean, he was bracing himself for potential drama, but
But he said it was actually a peaceful Thanksgiving.
yeah, it was a totally peaceful Thanksgiving, which
That's got to be a positive sign, right?
has got to be a positive sign.
Yeah. I mean,
Maybe his ex's family is just trying to keep things amicable,
Mm.
For their daughter's sake.
that's possible. Sometimes families just try to rise above those personal conflicts, especially when kids are involved.
Right.
And it might be a signal, of a shift towards a more cooperative co-parenting relationship.
You would hope.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I hope so. But
Mm.
honestly, I'm a little skeptical.
Mm.
Like, will that last?
Yeah.
Especially with, Christmas and all the other holidays coming up.
That's a good point. It can be challenging to maintain that level of cooperation long term. Holidays, they're emotional charged, so clear boundaries and open communication are going to be essential to avoiding conflicts in the future.
Absolutely. I think that's some great advice for anyone who's co-parenting.
Yeah, communication is key in any relationship, but especially when you're trying to navigate something as complex as co-parenting.
So true.
Right.
And speaking of avoiding conflict, there's something that worries me a bit.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked before about it, how important it is to have a solid legal agreement in place, especially when it comes to things like custody and holidays.
Right.
But
It sounds like Gabriel's learning that lesson the hard way.
yeah, it sounds like he is. He mentioned that they have like a tentative 50-50 custody agreement.
Right. 50-50.
But the details about holidays are still pretty fuzzy.
Fuzzy.
And there's no official document yet.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
That's a recipe for disaster.
it kind of is.
Yeah.
I mean, even with the best intentions, things change. People's circumstances change.
Exactly. Life happens. What happens if they disagree about something down the line?
What happens if they disagree
Yeah,
and there's nothing in writing?
exactly. Relying on informal agreements can really backfire.
Yeah.
Right. Without that legal clarity, things can devolve into resentment and conflict very quickly.
Yeah. I mean, in fact, not having those documents finalized has already led to some unforeseen expenses for Gabriel.
Oh, I see. So he's already feeling the consequences.
Yeah, a little bit. And that's what I'm worried about. It's just like what Jake said, you need those safeguards in place.
Yes.
You need those legal safeguards in place.
To protect yourself and just minimize the potential for future stress.
Exactly. If you're in a similar situation, please prioritize finalizing those legal documents.
I second that.
Yeah.
It may seem tedious now.
Right.
Trust me, it's worth it.
You can save you so much heartache later on.
Absolutely.
All right, so legal stuff aside,
Back to the fun stuff.
back to the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this upcoming date.
The date, yes.
He's got this really cool plan. He's going to take her for a nighttime walk through a botanical garden
Oh, wow.
with all the festive lights,
That sounds lovely.
doesn't it?
Yes. Very romantic.
Yeah, I thought it was a really nice idea.
And creative.
Yeah,
Yeah. Much better than just a typical dinner, I think.
I agree. It's so much more relaxed, and it's more conducive to natural conversation.
Yeah. A stroll like that allows for more organic interaction. And those little breaks in conversation won't feel as awkward,
They won't.
Yeah, you can just enjoy the scenery.
You can just enjoy the scenery, exactly. But,
Yeah.
Gabriel did mention feeling a little bit intimidated by this woman
Oh,
because she's pretty well-traveled.
I see.
And it sounds like she's had some incredible experiences.
Yeah.
And he was expressing feeling a bit, less worldly in comparison.
I can understand that. It's easy to feel a little insecure when you perceive someone as having more experience than you.
Right. And I think it's natural to want to, try to impress someone on a first date.
Yeah, we all want to put our best foot forward.
Yeah. But remember what Jake said.
Jake's advice, yes.
He said to see this not as a hurdle, but as an opportunity.
Oh, right, to learn something new.
To learn something new, exactly.
Yeah.
So instead of feeling insecure,
Yeah.
he can just view it as a chance to broaden his horizons, you know?
Yeah, through her stories.
Through her stories and experiences.
That's a great way to look at it.
Right. I really admire Gabriel's honesty about feeling this way.
Me too. It shows a lot of self-awareness.
And he's even, seeking advice from his friends about how to navigate it.
Right. Which is a smart move.
It is.
Yeah, sometimes actively listening and asking genuine questions
Right.
can be way more appealing than trying to match someone's experiences tit for tat.
You're right. It's about building a connection, not a competition.
Exactly.
And that's what dating should be about.
Right. Absolutely.
Now, Gabriel's friend Ethan brought up an interesting point about finding validation from external sources, especially when you're dating.
Yeah, that's a big one.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, Ethan raises a valid point. Seeking validation is natural to a certain extent, I think.
I think so, too.
But it's so important to approach it with a healthy mindset.
Yeah. How so?
I think the key is to avoid relying solely on external sources for your self-worth.
Right.
Especially during a vulnerable time, like post-divorce.
Especially during a vulnerable time like post-divorce.
It can be tempting to seek that validation from others, but ultimately it needs to come from within.
Yeah. I mean, you can definitely enjoy the positive feedback.
Yes.
And the confidence boost it can give you.
Absolutely.
But like you said, true validation has to come from within.
It does. It really does.
Otherwise, you're building your house on sand.
Yeah.
You need that strong foundation of self-worth.
Exactly.
That's independent of what other people think.
Right. So we've got this exciting date on the horizon.
We do.
But also, all this stuff with his divorce and co-parenting.
Yeah.
It's a lot to unpack.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's a lot for him to be juggling. Right. But, he seems to be facing all these challenges with a positive attitude and a willingness to learn and adapt.
He does. I have to give him credit for that.
Yeah.
He's really trying to make the best of a difficult situation.
He is. And that's what makes his journey so relatable.
Yeah.
He's navigating the ups and downs of life after divorce. And it reminds us that we all face similar hurdles in our own lives.
It does. It's a good reminder that we're not alone in our struggles.
We're not alone in our struggles.
Right. And that there's always hope for a brighter future.
So what stands out to you the most from what we've talked about today?
What stands out to me the most is his emphasis on communication.
Really?
Yeah. Both in his co-parenting situation and his approach to dating.
I see what you mean.
Whether it's setting clear boundaries with his ex or showing genuine interest in his date's experiences, communication seems to be at the forefront of everything for him.
That's a really good point. It's like strong communication is the foundation for any healthy relationship.
It is absolutely. Whether it's romantic or familial, good communication is essential.
Couldn't agree more.
It's also worth noting that his friends are providing great support and insights for him.
That's true. Jake and Ethan have both been through similar experiences.
And they're able to offer him advice and perspective based on their own journeys.
Exactly. And it sounds like he's really receptive to their input.
Yeah, he seems to be taking their advice to heart, which is a good sign.
Definitely. All right, before we move on to part 2.
Yeah.
Is there anything else about Gabriel's update that you want to highlight?
Yeah, I think it's important to point out that his willingness to communicate openly and honestly extends to acknowledging his insecurities.
Oh, that's a good one.
Which I think is a sign of real growth and self-awareness.
It is.
He's not trying to present a perfect facade.
Right.
He's being real about his feelings.
Yeah, and that's refreshing.
It is, and I think that authenticity is what makes his story so compelling.
Yeah, I think you're right.
He's not afraid to share his struggles and triumphs, which offers valuable insights for anyone going through similar transitions.
It does.
It's like he's holding up a mirror to our own experiences.
He is, and it's encouraging to see that even in the midst of all this change and upheaval, he's still approaching life with a sense of humor.
That's so important. Being able to laugh at yourself and the absurdity of life can make all the difference.
It really can. All right, well, we're definitely rooting for him as he navigates these uncharted waters.
Me too. I'm excited to see what the future holds for him.
Me too, and I'm especially curious to hear about this date.
Oh, yeah, the date.
The botanical garden date.
We'll have to wait for part 2 to find out how that goes.
We will.
Yeah.
But before we get ahead of ourselves,
right,
let's take a moment to consider how we can apply these insights to our own lives.
Good idea.
Whether it's in our relationships, our legal awareness, or our personal growth, there's always something to learn from Gabriel's experiences.
I agree. It's all about taking those lessons and applying them to our own unique situations.
So true.
So what do you think? How can we take what we've learned from Gabriel and use it to make our own lives a little bit better?
That's a great question for our listeners to ponder.
It is.
Yeah.
Let's all take some time to reflect on that.
Yeah. And we'll be back soon with part 2 of Gabriel's deep dive, where we'll uncover what happened on his date.
And how he's handling the complexities of his evolving relationship with his ex.
Right. It looks like we have a lot more to dive into.
We do.
So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You know, picking up where we left off, Gabriel being so open about feeling kind of intimidated by his date's world travels, that really got his friends thinking.
Oh, yeah.
And it brought up some really interesting points about how we view dating.
Yeah.
Especially after a big life change like divorce.
Yeah, I could see that.
Jake especially, had some really good advice for Gabriel.
What do you say?
He was like, dude, don't see this as like a disadvantage or anything. This is a chance to grow and connect with someone new.
Well, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, instead of like feeling insecure.
Right.
Or trying to compete with her experiences.
Yeah.
Just embrace the curiosity.
I like that.
And use this date as like a learning experience.
Yeah, why not?
Right.
Yeah.
It's a powerful shift in perspective,
Yeah, totally.
And it's not just about dating either. It's about life in general.
Oh, so.
If you show genuine interest in someone's experiences, you can connect with them on a much deeper level than if you're just trying to impress them with your own.
Oh, absolutely.
It's about sharing and exploring together.
Right.
Not like a one-sided presentation.
You're totally right.
And Gabriel being so open about his insecurities is great.
Yeah, it really is.
It shows he's grown a lot.
Yeah, it does.
He's not afraid to ask for help or admit when he's not feeling super confident.
Exactly.
That's really admirable.
Yeah, good for him.
And this actually ties in with Ether's point about, finding validation from outside sources.
Right. Even said not to rely too much on that.
Exactly.
Especially when dating.
Yeah, he was like, dude, you got to cultivate a strong sense of self-worth that doesn't depend on other people's approval.
Right. It's got to come from within.
Yes, especially when you're dating.
Yeah, dating can be tough.
It's emotionally charged,
Absolutely.
It's easy to get caught up in wanting to be liked.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But you can't let that define you.
Yeah, you got to know your worth.
Exactly.
No matter what anyone else thinks.
And it seems like Gabriel's starting to get that.
Oh, good.
Remember he said he was trying to keep his expectations in check?
Oh, yeah, he was totally realistic about it.
He was like, look, this might not work out.
Right.
And that's okay.
It's a healthy attitude.
It is. He's focusing on enjoying the experience.
Right.
And not putting too much pressure on the outcome.
That's great. I think we could all learn from that.
Totally.
Not just in dating, but in life.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you let go of the need for a specific outcome, you might actually enjoy the experience more.
And you won't be as disappointed if things don't go exactly as planned.
Yeah, so true.
Speaking of things not going as planned, we should probably talk about legal agreements again.
Oh, right. That came up a lot.
It did. Both Jake and Walter were like,
yeah,
get that legal stuff sorted out.
It sounds like they learned that lesson the hard way.
Yeah, they really stressed the importance of having everything in writing.
Especially when it comes to custody and holidays.
Especially those, yeah.
And it sounds like Gabriel's kind of behind on that.
A little bit, yeah. He admitted they haven't really finalized anything.
Oh, no.
Even though they've been separated for a while now.
It's not good.
It's not relying on informal agreements, even when you're getting along, can lead to problems later on.
Why is that?
Well, because emotions are involved.
Right.
You might overlook details or make assumptions.
When you're in the middle of separation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important to have everything spelled out.
In a legal document.
Yeah, it protects everyone.
And it helps to prevent conflict down the road.
Exactly. It's like having a roadmap for co-parenting.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Make sure everyone's on the same page.
Right.
And even if you think it's not necessary now, because everything's good, trust me, get those documents finalized.
It's better to be safe than sorry.
Exactly. Jake said it best. Everything is good until it's not.
Oh, that's so true.
Life is unpredictable.
Yeah.
So having those legal safeguards in place
can really save you a lot of stress and hassle.
It can, and heartache.
Yeah, definitely.
So even though Gabriel's got all this exciting stuff happening,
to date and everything.
Yeah, he still needs to take care of the practical things.
The legal stuff, the boring stuff.
Yeah, it's part of life.
It is, and it's part of his story.
And I think it's something a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah, trying to balance the emotional stuff.
Yeah.
With the practicalities of starting a new life.
Absolutely. And I think he's doing a good job of it.
I think so too. What part of his approach to dating do you like best?
I really admire his authenticity.
Me too.
He's not afraid to say, hey, I'm a little intimidated, but I'm willing to learn.
He's not trying to pretend he's someone he's not.
Exactly, and that's so attractive.
It's so refreshing.
And it allows for a more genuine connection.
Right, which is what dating should be about.
Exactly.
And it's interesting how the theme of communication keeps coming up.
Yeah, it's definitely a key takeaway from this whole thing.
Whether it's with his ex or his friends.
Or his date.
Or his date.
Communication is so important.
It really is.
It's the foundation of any healthy relationship.
Couldn't agree more.
All right. As we wrap up part 2 of our deep dive into Gabriel's journey, let's think about what we've learned.
Okay.
We talked about legal agreements, finding validation from within, and being authentic in your dating life.
That's a lot.
It is. What's resonating with you the most?
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that life is all about learning and adapting and growing. It is Gabriel's story is a reminder that it's okay to ask for support.
Yeah.
To be vulnerable.
Absolutely.
And to approach challenges with a mix of, pragmatism and optimism.
That's beautifully said. It's a reminder that we're all in this together.
We are. We're all navigating life's complexities.
And there's always room for growth and self-discovery.
All right, ready for part 3?
Let's go. I want to hear about this date.
All right, so we left off with Gabriel getting ready for this big date.
Yeah, the botanical garden at night.
How cool is that?
It is pretty cool, right?
Very romantic.
And it's a good choice for a first date, I think.
I think so too. Why?
It's romantic, but it's not like over the top.
Right, it's not like a fancy dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you're just like staring at each other.
Yeah, you can just stroll around.
Yeah.
Have some nice conversation.
Yeah, and it's a good way to avoid those awkward silences.
Exactly. You can just point to a pretty flower.
Exactly, and be like, oh, what is that?
Yeah. Have you ever seen anything like this?
Yeah, and I think it's a good choice for Gabriel, especially because...
Because he was feeling a little intimidated?
Yeah, he was a little intimidated.
By her world travel.
By her world travels, yeah. And this way he can kind of learn about her experiences.
Yeah, in a more organic way.
In a more organic way without feeling like he has to...
Compete.
Yeah, compete or like...
Yeah, I'm up her.
Yeah, exactly.
Be present.
Just be present and listen.
And ask questions.
Ask questions.
Right. Be curious.
Be curious.
That's what Jake and Ethan were saying.
Yeah, just enjoy the experience.
And see where it goes.
See where it goes. You don't have to put so much pressure on it.
No, you don't have to have all the answers.
And you don't have to pretend to be someone you're not.
Exactly.
Which I think is really important.
Yeah, just be yourself.
Be yourself.
If she likes you, great.
If she likes you, great.
If not, move on.
There are other fish in the sea. And it goes back to what we were talking about before.
About,
finding validation from within.
Oh, yeah.
Not needing external validation.
Yeah, you don't need her approval.
You don't need her approval to feel good about yourself.
You are worthy just as you are.
You are worthy just as you are.
Preach.
And Gabriel seems to be getting that.
He does seem to be.
He's not trying to prove anything to anyone.
He's just trying to be himself.
Just trying to be himself.
And I think that's really cool.
I think so, too.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Gabriel's life, what are some of the biggest things we've learned today?
Well, I think it all comes down to a few key things.
Yeah.
First of all, get those legal agreements done.
Yes. Even if you're getting along with your ex.
Yeah. It's about protecting yourself.
And it's about being clear.
Yeah. And it's something people often overlook.
They really do.
Second, remember that true validation comes from within.
Oh, yeah.
You don't need other people's approval to feel good about yourself.
So important. And that goes for everything, not just dating.
Not just dating, work friends, family, everything.
And finally,
be authentic.
Be yourself.
People can spot a fake a mile away.
Yeah, they can. So just be real.
Be real and be vulnerable.
That's how you connect with people.
On a real level.
On a real level.
And it sounds like that's exactly what Gabriel is learning to do.
It does. And it's inspiring to see.
It really is. He's making mistakes.
Yeah. We all do.
But he's learning from them.
And he's growing.
And he's not afraid to ask for help.
Exactly. We could all learn a thing or two from Gabriel.
I think so, too.
Well, that's our deep dive into Gabriel's latest update.
We covered a lot today.
We did.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
We hope you enjoyed it.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Bye for now.